Welcome back. The issue of transformation has come up in the real estate sector. The Estate Agency Affairs Board, the EAAB, says the property sector is mainly white and male-dominated, with very few Africans participating in the sector. The EAAB, of course, the regulator of the estate agency, professor. And we're joined by the relatively new CEO since February, Mamodupi Mohlala. Great to have you with us, Ms. Mohlala.
Good evening.
So how bad is the lack of transformation? And this is 25 years
into democracy. Yes, no, it is really very, very concerning. In fact, when I got the statistics, I had to give it 3 or 4 looks to be sure that I was reading what I was seeing. But in effect, the situation we have is we have over 43,000 estate agents.
Yeah. So these are registered estate agents in South Africa.
Those we have in our books and in our database that have FFCs issued to them.
Okay.
Of those, only 3,600 are black. And from that, half of those are actually
so less
interns.
than 1%, basically.
Correct. And half of those are actually interns. So the registered estate agents, whether as principals or as full status agents, are actually just over 1,000 in number.
Firstly, how does this happen? Because surely most of your new home owners, the people buying, possibly selling, are black.
Yes, that is a fact. But unfortunately, the way things work is that it's not just an issue of selling. Don't forget, there's also issues around bond origination. So the banks have a part to play with regard to whether people are creditworthy or not and whether they get those bonds.
Yeah.
And you find that there's a prevalence that those who actually go to estate agents that are considered to be established estate agents have contacts within the banks, and they find it easier to access finance. So even if the seller may be black, they're more likely to go to an estate agent that is considered to be established, and that will actually make sure that the sale is processed easier. So
really?
Those are the kinds of barriers.
I would go to my bank, as a matter of course.
Yes.
And you have a relationship with your bank yourself sometimes.
But don't forget, there are also these ratings that the banks give, because you don't necessarily get a bond from the bank that you bank with.
Yeah.
You get a bank that believes that the transaction is a commercially viable transaction.
Okay.
And don't forget that the bond originators have a lot to do with that, because they're the ones that will then negotiate and motivate. So you as a customer may not have the direct interaction with the person who makes the final decision on whether to give you a bond, whereas a bond originator has that kind of discussion.
So you're saying it's not that black people are not interested in property, it's not that they're being actively blocked, but the structure sort of advantages white males.
Yes, well, you can't necessarily say they're not being blocked. It's just, yes, unfortunately the structure and the system. From where we sit, we believe that to a large extent, the industry is not conducive for them. Because the issue of the bond origination is just but one of the problems.
Yeah.
The other issue is the system is such that it takes 3 to 4 months for transfer to take place. Go through the deeds office and register a property. And in that time, if you're financially cash-strapped, or you come from a very difficult financial base or a low financial base, you would then find it difficult to wait for 3 to 4 months for a sale to come through and for you to get the value from that.
Yeah.
That's why we are saying, as the Estate Agency Affairs Board, we need to put incubations in place, whereby we're going to get SMEs into those incubations. We will give them a part fund, a part grant, a part loan, help them establish themselves, but most critically, we are saying we need to give them access to markets. So we will go out actively with them to say, don't look at only your conventional residential markets. There's commercial property, but there's other new innovative markets that you can look at. RTP, for instance, is an option for them. Social housing is an option for them. And black estate agents have not been in those particular sectors. So we're saying, let's look for new innovative markets and see how we can assist them to make sure not only that are they sustainable, but when they come into the market, they've got a clear value proposition with regard to how they will generate revenue and in what periods of time.
You say it's still going on. If you look at these certificates you issue that register estate agents, 13,600 by March last year, only 500 or so issued to black Africans. Do you have any control over who you issue certificates to? Can you put any sort of quotas in place there?
Look, with regard to the Fidelity Fund certificates, the way it works right now is when a person shows interest, they apply for a Fidelity Fund certificate and then they're granted. But yes, as a regulator, we can actually intervene in that process. And what we've done is we've embarked on a process whereby we're recruiting interns into the profession to say that this is a viable option, this is a profession that you can make money in, and you must consider it, because it's part and parcel of the property sector. sector, and there have been many discussions about people from historically disadvantaged backgrounds coming into property and owning property. So we are now saying, young graduates, choose the estate agency profession as a profession. It is a viable one, and you can determine how much money you make. So we've put in place an internship program, but we've cushioned it to a large extent to make sure that it is seen to be attractive. And we've gone into partnerships with entities such as your Vodacoms, your First National Banks, and even the Gauteng provincial government. And in terms of those partnerships, we are trying to make sure we not only assist them with issues of funding, but we also deal with barriers to entry. For instance, access to telephony, access to data, and issues around access to marketing material.
Because you need that step up in the beginning.
Correct.
What about the big estate agencies? Are they supporting this? Can you go in and learn from somebody who knows the ropes because they've been doing it for 30 years?
Yes, they are. Because as part of our internship program, we need to place these interns with established interns. So they're placed with what we call host employers. And those host employers are a combination of established estate agents and the new entrant estate agents. But the minimum requirement is that a person must at least be a principal, meaning that you've done more than 24 months in the industry and have obviously a track record to show. So these young people are not going to be left to their own devices. They're also going to be placed with host employers who are established estate agents who will then guide them and train them through the ropes so that they come into the industry. And we've got very ambitious targets. We're looking at bringing in at least 10,000 in this financial year, and hoping that with the mechanisms that we're putting in place, then there'll be more of a staying power, because a lot have come into the system, but they don't stay because of the challenges and the difficulties. So we are now saying we want to be able to retain them, and that's why we're putting the initiatives in place.
So can we hold you as the EAAB to account, and in a year's time say, are there 10,000 new black entrants?
Call us in 12 months' time. We'll give you the statistics, and we're extremely optimistic that the crop that we brought in now are people who have staying power, because we've gone out and recruited them ourselves, and a lot of them are very enthusiastic and energetic unemployed graduates who want an opportunity, who want a leg up, and we believe that this will be our way of making sure we contribute to reducing unemployment statistics in this country.
Is it really an attractive profession? By all accounts, the property market right now is in the doldrums. People are selling, but not enough people buying. We hear of houses sitting on the market for months, and that means an estate agent is not bringing in that commission.
Well, I suppose it depends on which market you're looking at. That is why we're saying we're not going to just look at the traditional residential markets. We're looking at new and innovative markets, and we're actually partnering with government entities that have an obligation to deliver housing, and we are saying work the estate agent into your business plan. That's why when I started, I mentioned RDP. We believe there is a market for estate agents in that, and we are making proposals to government on how. Social housing.
Government can open up the space for that to happen.
Correct. And instead of using attorneys later to solve the problem, we're saying be preemptive. Put us in. Let's put systems in place so that you don't even have to get to a point whereby you need lawyers to actually solve problems. Let's prevent them. And estate agents are critical for that purpose.
If you're championing transformation, which is great, do you have the time to do all the regulation? I mean, you are the watchdog over unscrupulous practices, unscrupulous estate agents across this country.
Yes, we have the capacity and we have the means to do so. And I believe we have a clear plan on how we're going to do it. I think because for a very long time we felt that transformation is this added burden, instead of looking at it as a value proposition for us to continue to be relevant as an estate agent. We have never given it priority. And I think now we are giving it priority, and in giving it priority, it will actually contribute directly towards making sure that we enforce the sector, in the sense that the people who come in now will be people who would have been introduced properly. You won't have this issue around illegal estate agents operating, because they would have come in the system, they would have been monitored by the regulator, and we would have made sure that they get the necessary training before coming in.
How are you doing as a regulatory body? Because there are those old cases we remember of estate agents dipping into the money that they were meant to hold in trust on behalf of their clients. We've heard from people who say that there was a claim against a big estate agency not paying tax. Nothing has been done yet. I don't know if you can speak about specific cases, but how are you doing as a regulatory body?
Look, we are very much aware that we are accountable to our industry with regard to the Fidelity Fund, and what you're talking to is the claims against the Fidelity Fund, because each time an estate agent is negligent out there, any member of the public has the right to to claim against the Fidelity Fund. But what we've now said is this fund cannot just be abused and used limitlessly. We have now put in place a policy whereby we are going to go and collect. If there is that allegation against an estate agent that they are not actually, that they've done something improper, we won't just pay out of the Fidelity Fund and let it be. We are now going out and we're going to collect against those estate agents. And you will be hearing from us in a few months' time about the initiatives we have in place. We're also going to be dealing proactively with those that are practicing illegally and obviously having unscrupulous practices. We actually are going to be going out to interdict them, to stop them immediately from causing any harm in relation to the public. So we are now taking the consumer and protecting the consumer in the fullest sense of the word, and we're putting a lot of initiatives in place. So you will be hearing a lot from us with regard to those initiatives going forward.
So let's end with this then. How many unscrupulous estate agents are there out there, and how do you spot them?
Your guess is as good as mine, but we do have a methodology by which we actually are able to pick up some of those. Obviously, we've got inspectors that would go out and do the inspections, but over and above that, our industry is very active in that sense. If an estate agent who is legitimately registered picks up that there's someone who's unscrupulous and practicing incorrectly, they immediately alert the EAB. In fact, we have a hotline for whistleblowers who can come directly to the EAB and indicate that there are these unscrupulous practices, and we immediately investigate.
And you can take their certificate away and they're
Correct.
not registered.
Yes, in fact, a lot of the time, those don't even have a certificate. They're just making a wrong representation to the public. But those who perform illegally with a certificate, yes, we have disciplinary processes where we can take the certificate away.
So how do you protect yourself? Can you ask for that certificate? How do you make sure it's a real one?
In fact, there is a court ruling that says that every consumer must actually ask an estate agent to produce a valid Fidelity Fund certificate before they interact with them. And the way in which you can verify, we have a database of all registered estate agents on our website, and any member of the public is free to actually go and check on our website. But over and above that, you're also free to call our call center, where you can get full information with regard to whether a person is a registered estate agent or not.
All right, we appreciate your time this evening. Let's chat again about transformation and the regulation as well.
Thank you very much.
CEO, relatively new, of the State Agency Affairs Board, Mamodupi Mohlala.